Good day children, and once again welcome to this English class. In the previous class we had seen that the arrangements were being done in EVANS cell. Tables were arranged and the chair was arranged for the examination to take place. So let's read what's there coming next. Jackson put in a brief final appearance and he said, "Behave yourself, laddie." And he said, Jackson said to Evans, "Behave yourself," when the examination is going on. Evans turned and nodded. So he's just turned and he nodded his head. And these, he pointed out some pin-ups. He said, Evans turned and nodded again. "I was going to take them down anyway. A minister isn't then. The chap coming to sit in And then he said, I was going to take it down and the minister is going to come over here and the chap that is coming, he will sit over here." "And how did you know that?" asked Jackson quietly. So when Evans said that the minister is going to come and the person who is going to come, he will sit over here. So Jackson asked him, "How do you know everything about it?" "Well, I had to sign some forms, didn't I? And I couldn't help." So Evans cleared himself and he said, "When the forms came in, I had to sign it and so I came to know about it." Evans drew the razor cap carefully down his left cheek and left a neat swath in the white lather. And then he was shaving his beard. So very nicely he was shaving and he brought the razor on his left cheek and he said something to Mr. Jackson. "Why did they have to bug me in this cell? Why they are taking my exam in this cell?" He nodded his head vaguely to a point above the door. And then he just looked towards the door and he pointed why they want to take my examination in this cell only. "Not a very neat job," conceded Jackson. Jackson said, "It is not a very neat job," means it is very carefully it is to be taken. They don't honestly think I am going to try to. So those people must be thinking that I am just trying to break the cell and go away from here. They are taking no chances, Evans. Nobody in a sense would take any chance with you. So you are the person who is known to break the jail and that's why they don't want to take any chance with you. Who is going to listen in? I'll tell you who is going to listen in, laddie. Is the governor himself. He don't trust you a bloody inch, and nor do I. I'll be watching you like a hawk, Evans, so keep your nose clear. He walked towards the door. And then Evans asked him, "Who is going to listen to me?" So Jackson said that the governor himself will come and he will do the inspection. And I'll also be watching you like a hawk. I'll be keen and careful. So you better be clear in your work and do your work properly. I'll be here walking up and down on the door. Evans nodded. He'd already thought of that and number 2 handkerchief was lying ready on the bunk, a neatly folded square of white linen. And the other handkerchief, the second handkerchief, was lying on the bunk. It was neatly folded. "Just one more thing, Einstein. Good luck, old son." In the little lodge just inside the prison main gate, the Reverend S. McElry signed his name neatly in the visitor's book and thence walked side by side with a silent prison officer across the exercise yard to D wing, where he was greeted by Jackson. And then inside the lodge of the prison gate, Mr. McLeary, he came in, he signed, he wrote his name as a visitor over there and then he walked with the prison officer towards the D wing and then Mr. Jackson, who was already posted over there, he greeted him. The wing's heavy outer door was unlocked and locked behind them, the heavy inner door the same, and McClary was handed into Stephen's keeping. After that, the big heavy door was unlocked and the another door was locked, and again it was, means as he went inside, the doors were open and they were locked carefully, and then in the end McClary was handed over to Stephens. "Get the razor," murmured Jackson. So Jackson said to Evans, "Give back the razor." Stephens nodded. Stephen just shook his head. "Well, keep your eyes skinned clear." And then he said, "Be clear and be at the watch. Look everything carefully." Stephens nodded again, and McClary, his feet clanging up the iron stairs, followed his new guide and finally stood before a cell door where Stephen opened the peephole and looked through. And then he was taken upstairs on the iron stairs, and the new guide, means Stephen, was there with him. And then Stephen stood at the cell door, and from there he opened the peephole and he peeped from there and said, "There he is." Evans, facing the door, sat quietly at the farther of the two tables. His whole attention reverted to the textbook of elementary grammar, German grammar. Stephen took the key from its ring and the cell lock sprang back with the thud metallic twang. And then when he saw inside, Evans was sitting facing the door and the elementary German grammar book was there with him. And Stephen, he took the key from the ring, he opened the cell and the iron door make a big sound and it opened. It was 9:10 a.m. when the governor switched on the receiver, and then the governor, he ran from there. It was 9:10. He had instructed Jackson to tell Evans of the temporary little precaution, and then the instruction was given to Jackson to tell Evans to be little cautious. That was only fair, as if Evans wouldn't spot it. But wasn't it all a bit theoretical? Schoolboyish almost. How on earth was Evans going to try anything on today? If he was so anxious to make another break, why in heaven's name hadn't he tried it from the recreational block? So it was being questioned over there. If Evans was trying to break the jail today, why he didn't break the jail when he was in the recreational block? Much easier, but he hadn't, and there was now sitting in the locked cell. Now he's sitting in the locked cell and it is very difficult for him to break in through. All the prison officers were on alert. Two more locked doors between his cell and the yard, and a yard with a wall as high as a haystack. Yes, Evans was as safe as houses. So it was very clear that all the doors were locked carefully and it was very difficult for Evans to break through. So they were very much relaxed that Evans may not be able to break the prison. Anyway, it wouldn't be any trouble at all to have the receiver turn on for the next couple of hours or so. So the receiver was not going to be taken up for the next hours. It wasn't as if there was going to be anything to listen to, was it? Amongst other things, an invigilator's duty was to ensure that the strict silence was observed. And it was the duty of the invigilator to see that the examiner, means the examinee, he should be giving the exam in pin drop silence. But still, that little nagging doubt, might Evans try to take advantage of McClary? So there was still doubt that he'll take advantage of McClary, who was the invigilator over there. get him to smuggle in a chisel or two or a rope or ladder. So they were thinking that if he'll get a chisel, ladder and rope, then something might happen. The governor sat up sharply. It was all very well getting rid of any potential weapon that Evans could have used. So governor, he was very much clear that no weapons are there with Evans. But what about McClary? And the question was about McClary. What if, quite unwittingly, the innocent McClary had brought in something himself? And if McClary himself brought something inside the cell, then it will be very dangerous. A jackknife perhaps. And what if Evans held him hostage with such a weapon? And if he has brought the jackknife, the paper cutting knife, then if Evan caught hold of him as an hostage, and what would have happened? The governor reached for the phone. It was 9:12 a.m. The examinee and the invigilator had already been introduced by Stephen when Jackson came back and shouted to McClary through the cell door. And the examinee and the invigilator, they were introduced by Stephen, and Jackson, he called out to McClary from outside, "Can you come outside a minute, sir? You too, Stephens." So both of them were called outside. Jackson quickly explained the governor's worries, and McClary patiently held out his arm at shoulder level, whilst Jackson lightly frisked his clothes. "Something hard there, sir. Here, sir." And then Jackson, he explained that the governor is very much worried, and McClary, he put his arms forward, and Jackson, he looked, he just touched his clothes and he found something hard inside. "Ma, reading glasses," replied McClary, looking down at the spectacle case. So McClary replied that it was his reading glasses. Jackson quickly reassured him, and bending down on the landing thumb fickled the catches of the suitcase. He picked up each envelope in turn, carefully passed his palms along their surface, and seemed satisfied. And then Jackson, he bent down, and then he looked into the suitcase, picked up all the envelopes, and carefully he checked it, whether it was whether harmful things were there inside or not. He riffled curiously through the few pages of Holy Writ and vaguely shook the Church Times. All right so far, but one of the objects in McClary's suitcase was puzzling him sorely. But one object was there that puzzled Stephen very much. "Do you mind telling me why you have brought this, sir?" He held up a smallish, semi-inflated rubber ring, such as a young child with a waist of about 12 inches might have struggled into. "You think of going to swim for a swim, sir?" And then he said, "Why you have brought this rubber ring?" It seems as if it was for a young boy, young child who wants to swim. So he said, "Are you going to swim?" McClary, hitherto amiable demeanor, was slightly ruffled by his tasteless little pleasantry, and he answered Jackson somewhat sourly, "If ye must know, I suffer from hemorrhoids, and when I am sitting down for any length of time." So he said, "Actually, I have a problem and I cannot sit for a longer time, so I need this." "Very sorry, sir, I didn't mean to." So he said, "I'm very sorry to hurt you. I didn't mean to hurt you." The embarrassment was still reddening Jackson's cheek when he found the paper knife at the bottom of the case. And then he found the paper knife. "I think it will better keep him though, if you don't mind, that is, sir." And then he said, "Okay, sir, I think it is better to keep this over there." It was 9:18 a.m. before the governor heard his voices again, and it was clear that the examination was going to be more than a little late in getting underway. And the governor heard his voice again and he said that the examination will be a little bit late. So now we'll read it the next day. That's all for today. Good day and good luck.